This is episode 117 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Kathy Fettke. Kathy, you may know as a guest expert on such media outlets as CNN, CNBC, Fox News, NPR, CBS MarketWatch, and the Wall Street Journal. She's the founder of RealWealth. She also has two very long-running RealWealth podcasts, The RealWealth Show and Real Estate News for Investors. She's been a real estate investor for a very long time, and she's also one of the four co-hosts of On the Market on Bigger Pockets. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. You've been in the game a long time like me, but when was the first time that you remember real estate being something that you thought could help grow your wealth?
Well, I mean, wow, goes way back.
Yeah.
It goes way back
For me too.
Not for me personally, but observing as a child. My parents bought a house in Atherton, California when I was 7. And they paid $99,000 for it, which was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
It was a high-end neighborhood. It was the most expensive neighborhood in America at
Oh my gosh.
99,000.
Yeah, 99,000.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I graduated from high school, they sold it for $1 million. So in that 10 years,
Yeah.
10x. And my dad was like walking around like he was, the smartest guy in the world. 3 years later, I'm sure you know what happened to the San Francisco Bay Area, but they discovered this little thing called a computer.
Yeah.
And so 3 years later, that property was worth about $4 million.
That's crazy.
So he went from feeling like a winner to a loser in a few years. Like, why did I sell that property? And of course, we're thinking, yeah, why did you? That was my inheritance.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the first time that I just was like, wow, that's crazy. He's a dentist. He spent years learning his trade and, is very highly paid. And yet he made more just living in a house,
Yeah.
So that got my interest. I knew it was something to invest in. The question was, and the problem was, I didn't know how. And I thought I had to be rich before I could do it.
Yeah. And I do feel like the idea of more communal living is definitely coming back now more. Affordable housing is hard to find. You guys talk about it all the time on the market, but I feel like a modified communal housing is going to be more important. You're seeing it out of the country in a lot of places where they're building large scale structures to keep everyone together. But I think, there's opportunity with what's happened with commercial real estate to turn it into something that can be more like that. Are you seeing that anywhere across the board or expect that to happen as well?
I've had dreams of that, of creating housing. I just think it was so great for us. Our kids, we had 2 daughters. They didn't have a brother. So this little boy, he would play with his dinosaurs and they'd play with their Barbies and it was just adorable. They were the best of friends. I think we're tribal people. I think that's really missing actually in our society. It would help solve the affordable housing crisis and also the loneliness crisis and the daycare crisis and all the things. Why wouldn't you have a house with a bunch of single moms?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. It sounds great. I've seen just a much more, at least from my client base on market, multi-generational living is back. And it was something that always made sense. I've seen it. I was on the Apple show Home. They talked about it, 3 families each level for each generation, which was amazing. And then on Live to 100 on Netflix, just they're talking about the blue zones, but they were saying how important this community is. There was a part on Singapore where they had built everything that was built was around the community. So no one had to drive, everyone had to be together. The daycare and everything was right there, just like you're saying. I do think we're trending back to that. And it'll be interesting to see if they can redeploy some of those assets and hopefully redevelop them. Although it's not going to be an easy process. You're going to need some grants to get it done.
Yeah, you just reminded me of, I live in an expensive coastal town in Southern California. And the original landowners of Malibu, their great grandkids still have this plot of land near the ocean, and they kind of turned it into that communal living, and it's beautiful. They're like little tiny homes on this big large plot, but they dine together, they cook together, they grow food together. And they're not just hippies; these are professionals, but they love it. They take care of each other's dogs. The dogs are always running around, and that's the way we're supposed to be. We actually have a syndication we did in Costa Rica with this concept. It's called Rise Costa Rica,
Oh,
about
amazing.
800 acres for Silicon Valley billionaires or whatever, wealthy people who just want their kids to be raised on earth, on the
Yeah.
grounds, and in waterfalls and rivers, and growing their own food. But these, Silicon Valley people could still fly back and forth
Yeah.
to San Jose to do it. So anyway, we are doing that concept. It's just that Costa Rica is so far, not everybody wants to leave,
Yeah.
their country and, to do
Yeah.
that.
Do you think that's a wise way for people to go, even on a smaller scale? They're listening to podcasts, seeing what people are doing, trying to figure out who they can trust along the way.
Yes and no. I used to believe that, and I have done syndications with people with a track record, and they've gone bad.
Yeah.
I've seen people brand new to the business that I wouldn't invest with because they were brand new, and they killed it.
Yeah.
They made it happen. So I used to really think that was the answer, and I'm not sure anymore. But it's better, right? It's your
Right.
chances of success are better investing with somebody who's done the thing over and over for a long time,
Yeah.
and more than 5 years, more than even 10 years. Somebody who's been through cycles and understands that markets can change on a dime, and
Yeah.
that's the fact. So, what protected me, and believe me, I've done syndications that haven't gone well. Like I said, I even partnered with 40-year veteran,
Yeah.
experts, and
Yeah.
and still ran into challenges. I mean, there was COVID. This is unprecedented. How do you write that into your pro
Right.
forma?
Right. Yeah.
You know? And for me, I was in development. So apartments took off, but development got really challenged because we couldn't get the materials and the costs went up.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
there's always life throws curveballs that are challenging even to the best in the business. But now, so what had happened is my current partner that I've had for 14 years in development, who we've done each development's done very well, in spite of challenges. There's been plenty of challenges, but
Yeah.
we bought right. There was enough equity. I went to him and said, you know, can you give me a framework of how to buy multifamily, because I want to do it right? And he said, oh yeah, I wouldn't leverage over 65%, and this and this, and I'm like, well, there's nothing
Yes.
that'll work.
Right.
Are you kidding? If you went with those standards in 2020, 2021, you wouldn't buy a thing.
Yeah.
And, because there was just so much competition. So I just was on the sideline. I had this conservative underwriter. Everything was rejected. I was feeling like a loser. Like, what am I not seeing? And why am I so conservative? But it's like, I'm too old to not be. When you're younger, you can maybe take more risks, but
Yeah.
not at this stage in life. You don't want to start over now.
Yeah.
Rich and I are turning 60 this year. So it was just like, I just sat on the sideline watching all these people doing these heavy hitters, and, buying a multifamily and selling it for twice the price the next year. I'm like,
Yeah.
why didn't I do that deal? But then, of course, we saw the market changed on a dime, and my partner was correct, because he'd been through, they'd
Yeah.
been doing this for 40 years. He knows how things can change on a dime, and he just sticks to the underwriting, he doesn't stray. And I would say Brian Burke does that too.
Yeah.
He got out of the game during all of that too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I also don't have FOMO, so I don't have to buy. I'd like to, but it's
Yeah.
like the numbers still have to make sense. I think I'm a little bit open to modifying my buy box as I see stuff. But I think
Hmm.
if I was doing large scale, it just might be easier and smarter to say, like, yeah, 40 years in, maybe you just stick to the buy box. And if nothing fits it, nothing fits it. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with a lot of booming asset classes, it's a timing thing. So for those who bought and sold before 2021, you made a
Yeah.
killing.
Yeah, of
You made
course.
a killing, and those who came in right then, it's like every single cycle, those who come in at the end are the ones in the Ponzi. They're the ones who get hurt. And every single day we're seeing another multifamily operator going down. It's very sad,
Yeah, it
because
is.
it could have been prevented if rates didn't go up, but when you're in it, you can't really see it, even though it's so obvious.
Yeah.
In 2005, it was so obvious that the loans were bad, but so many people couldn't see it. Thankfully, I could, because I had Robert Kiyosaki on the show to kind of point it out to me, and I was able to interview really experienced investors and help a lot of people avoid that recession, that crash and benefit from it. But in this last one, it's like I have enough experience to know that rates are never going to stay at 2 or 3%. And yet we still fooled ourselves into thinking that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't refi a bunch of things thinking I got time.